All right, welcome. So, audience, welcome. We have Mr. Stipe Miocic. He is the reigning heavyweight champion of the UFC. Most title defenses in heavyweight, most performance bonuses in heavyweight. It's such an honor to have you here. My name is Lex. Alongside me, Fintan. Welcome to the show.
What's up, guys?
How are you doing?
Abs-
Good. I'm doing good. I mean, unfortunately, quarantine, but good.
Yeah. That has some extra um, consequences for you too, since you're a firefighter.
Yeah, I worked the other day, and we only had one call that was possible, but the turnout wasn't. They weren't, thank God. But it hasn't been too bad right now, so they've been doing a good job. But I we'll see. I mean, they keep saying it's going to get worse, but we'll see. Hopefully, it doesn't.
Okay.
will you continue to be on call for as long as this is going on?
Yeah, I mean, I actually have a couple more days off, which is nice. So I don't get on until the 8th, which is a nice way the schedule worked out. So yeah, but I'll probably be going before that. They'll probably need help, so I'll probably go help.
Damn, that's
Incredible,
very
man.
yeah, that's very respectable, man. That's doing people a big service as well.
While you're taking your days off, have you been doing much streaming? Because I checked it out the other day and you were playing COD. And are you much of a gamer, or is it just a more recent thing? Or
No, I've always gamed. I just never jumped on the Twitch bandwagon for a while just because I was busy. And I started a while back, and then we had the baby, unfortunately. So
unfortunately,
Yeah,
not,
yeah.
I'm saying, which she's my world, but yeah. So unfortunately, I had to stop, which I don't care. My family comes first, especially my daughter. But then I started doing it again, and then we moved, and then yeah, I've been on it since. So I haven't been on the last couple of days just because we've been busy. But then we're trying to get on tonight and tomorrow, and I try to get it 4 or 5 times a week at the most.
That's pretty
that's
sick.
incredible.
I love it. It's fun. I love video games, but also I love like chatting with people. It just kills time and it's fun. And nice.
Do you think that this is something that you're gonna keep doing, or is it like just the current situation, or do you have like more plans with that? Like, tell us what kind of your Twitch future looks like.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I definitely. I'm older. I'm an older gentleman in the group here. These young kids playing. I don't mind it. I love it. I play with some guys that are real good too, and yeah, I'm gonna keep playing, man. I love it, and see where it takes it. I love everything about it. It's a new thing, and I'm happy to cause I love what I do with it, and it's such a big thing too. Now it's like perfect.
Yeah.
One final thing I see in the background that you have a picture of the two-time. Are you a big Dr. Disrespect fan, or did you get this out just for this?
So I am a Dr. Disrespect fan. He's actually very talented individual. I've never personally talked to him, but he, I was going to play with him the one day. I told him I played, but it just never worked out. And then one of the guys saw, I tweeted with him, and he said, "Hey, man, I'm gonna hook you up with some stuff." So they sent me a bunch of gear, and the first thing in the box was a picture of him. So I mean, I had to do it, no question.
Yeah,
It's a great photo.
Right next to the boat.
yeah, and the belt. It's hard not to be a fan of Doctor Disrespect for sure, especially in all the shooters. And it's just like I feel like especially from competing at a high level, like you just have to appreciate the show aspect and everything that comes with it. Like he just gets the game.
Yeah, I mean, he's like he could suck and he'd still be good just because what he does and how he does everything. I mean, he's got a great mind. You can see, he knows what's going on. He knows what people like, and he hits I think every genre of everyone, like age group.
100%.
Yeah. That's not really the only crossover that we've seen you in discussed the last few times. I mean, there's a lot to talk about you and Tyson Fury perhaps having a boxing match. Like, could you tell your thoughts on that, or where that's at, or is that anything at all?
No, I mean, definitely try it. I think it was great. I think it's great. Two heavyweights, two different combat sports. I think everyone wants to see it. I think it would have been a great matchup. I think he's great. He's a tough guy, but I think it's a lot different when all you gotta do is train for boxing, and I can stick to one martial art. So unfortunately, I think he's gonna be fighting Wilder again here soon once everything clears up and he set a date. So I think he his reclaws, whatever you want to call it, for the rematch.
Mhm.
His clause for the rematch.
Do you have any thoughts on the first fight that went down between them two? Do you think it goes the same way again?
I don't know, man. Every fight's different. I mean, everything. It's crazy. I think the last fight, it was crazy because he hit him right in the ear, and I thought maybe he didn't say it happened, but I thought maybe he ruptured his eardrum and kind of messed up his equilibrium, and just that's why he couldn't stand up straight. He just was out of it. But I give Wilder he's a tough man, and but Wilder hit him with a good shot, man, and I think it might have messed him up a little bit. Just kind of got him off centered, and he couldn't get his bearing straight because his sense of straightness wasn't really there. It was,
Yeah. What do you generally think about like cross promotions like that? Like, obviously we have McGregor versus Mayweather, and then there's talk like that. Like, do you think it's good for both sports? Do you just kind of like stuff to stay in their lane, or how do you feel about that generally?
I think I think it's great. I think it shows a different just a different view of the sport because like people are boxing or people are MMA, but then people that watch and MMA will watch boxing, they'll get back into boxing, and vice versa. So I think it definitely helps both sports. I think it shows that it's a combat sport. People want to see fights. They want a good fight. So I'll take the two best guys from each every sport, each sport, and let them go at it.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that if you continue on that route where you have two guys from two different sports, if you keep doing that, it slowly turns back into the UFC where everybody fights each other there. That's kind of how it came to be, right?
Yeah, right. No, yeah. We'll see what happens. Just fortunately, Wilder wants a rematch. I know, but it's okay. I don't mind it. But we'll see what happens. But right now, I just not really worried about that. Just worried about everyday life and making sure that we stay clean and don't spread anything.
Does it make you feel somewhat good knowing that none of these boxers or people from other sports would fight you in MMA? So at your weight class, you are actually the baddest man on the planet. You are the champ.
Yeah, it's cool, honestly. I love it. It's humbling. I still don't. Times I don't even think like that. I'm like, I love what I do. It's a fun sport, and if it wasn't for the fans, it wouldn't be as big as it was. And but listen, anything can happen in a fight, man. So as much as I might be better at mixed martial arts, anything can happen. Just one punch, especially in the heavyweight division. The big boys are gloves. Anything can happen.
Yeah, I think just also looking at MMA. I mean, there's a potential massive rematch between you and Cormier. Can you update us on like how the talks are that going? Like the current situation, how's all that being handled or communicated to you guys?
Yeah, unfortunately, I had an eye injury. I had a torn tear retina from the last fight. And I got healed, and I had to take some time off just because I do want to re-injure it. And a few injuries in my hand. It's like it sucks getting old sometimes because like everything goes fast. But yeah, and then those other fights have been booked up, so looking like summer, but we'll see. Just because like I said, everything's going on. We just got another 4 weeks of quarantine here in Ohio. So, it's going to be tough. My gym's been closed for, 3 weeks now.
Do you feel a strong rivalry with yourself and DC? Obviously, both of you want to be crowned the baddest man on the planet, and you are right now, but you're both so respectful, and it never felt like there was that hatred towards one another. It was just to be the best.
I don't think it's a rivalry. I guess. I don't know. Him and John Jones have one. They don't.
Yeah, sure.
Listen. I'm not gonna go out and go get a beer with the guy, but we're competitors and all that. But at the end of the day, I always tell people the best one. But honestly, I don't see a rivalry. Honestly, I don't really get into it. I'm like whatever. Say what you want to say. Good for you.
Yeah, but this is also like a even within a rivalry, you can have a lot of sportsmanship where. There's more of a build-up, right? Like I could imagine that fighting Cormier for the third time would have more build-up for you personally and kind of some competitiveness as if somebody else came up and fought you for the first time.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're 100% right. Honestly, I think there'd definitely be more build-up for the third fight, just because we both each got to win, and we both fight. We go at it. We don't sit there and kind of sit back. We push the pace. We're heavyweights, and we throw a lot of punches, a lot of volume, and we keep coming. And we got durability. So it's just I think people love that.
Speaking of your durability, the second fight was one of my favorite fights in recent times, and it felt like you really turned that fight around in the middle of it. Was there anything strategic, or was it just in the moment and it just clicked and now you have maybe a recipe to set you up for that third fight?
Yeah, first round I just had no idea what I was doing. I really got out of the fight, and then the second round I started feeling a little bit better, and then that third round, by the middle of that third round is when I started really feeling I got the takedown and all that stuff, and I felt really really comfortable and started feeling better. Started hopping around, and that fourth round came, and I felt like relaxed. I'm like, all right, we're back. I'm good. I'm focused. Like. And then, we talked about the body, and I was like, yeah, let's give it a shot. I hit it the one time. I'm like, man, it was nice. Like, did it again. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to stop now. So, and here we are. So, yeah, I think, definitely look for a next fight, of course. But at the same time, though, you can't keep going to the welter because it's going to run dry.
Yeah, it was such a sick moment, though. Like, you just, it's the first time it hit, and you got a clear, like, physical reaction from DC as well. And then, is that something you instantly, because it looked like you instantly recognized it, right? Like you did it, I think, not too long after, you immediately went for the liver again. And it was just a snappy, I remember because it was so explosive. It's like, oh my God, I found the opening there or something. Is that something that you immediately register with how much experience you have?
Yeah, I think I've always worked on body. I should have used it a lot more, and not just this fight, but past ones. And finally, it just clicked. I hit him with that first one, and I saw like, oh, I'm like, you didn't like that one too much. So then, I kept going, but I also was setting it up. I wasn't just throwing it, and I was waiting for him to throw a punch or, throw my shots and come back with it, as a combination. So as the more times I did it, I still wanted to hide it so you just wouldn't expect to come, because that's when you get caught, when you just keep doing the same thing because he's going to time it eventually, and he's going to hurt you.
Was there any nervousness, or in general, do you still get in any way nervous heading into fights? Of course, that one, you wanted your belt back. You'd been without a fight for, I believe, over a year at the time. Mm-hmm. So when you are out of the ring for that long, do you find nerves on fight night, or is it just second nature to you now? You go in, you know what you need to do, and you just try and execute the game plan?
Well, when I started, I was terrified. It was terrible. I was, but it's like riding a bike or tying a shoe. The more times you do it, the better you get at it, and the easier it gets. And I still get nervous. I think you still got to be nervous because you never know what's going to happen. And if you're not nervous, you're not ready, honestly. If you're too calm and collective, then I'm calm and collective, but I'm also got the nerves, because I don't know what's going to happen, But it's definitely got better. And, I look at it too as nothing else I can do. I train my butt off. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to give it all I got, But the minute I walk in that cage and they close the gate, I close the cage and I'm like, I can't leave now. So kind of just turn it on and know where they're just got to go.
Do you are you able to do any training at home at all now, quarantined, or because the gyms are closed? And how does it look for you? Like, do you look to stay in shape, or just kind of, think about your food, be aware of everything, and know that there might be a camp ahead of you, or what does that look like? Because
I'm chasing my daughter around, so I'm doing a lot of cardio with them. No, I've been doing, I bike here at home in the treadmill and stuff like that. And, I do some stuff, but it's tough just because, we're so busy with the baby because we're always doing, she's nonstop. She's running around everywhere. She's always trying to do something. But, we take time for each other. My wife does her workout, and I'll do my workout later. But, it's tough. I usually still have meals get sent to my house. So I eat pretty decent. I don't go to McDonald's or anything like that, really. Fortunately, I really do want McDonald's, especially, but most of the time, I'm pretty good about it, eat healthy.
One fight that I would possibly have been nervous of, and a lot of people before it were quite nervous. For you, I felt 100%. And listen, obviously you went in there, you dismantled him. I personally believe it was one of the best performances ever because everybody was talking about Francis basically already becoming the new champion. I seen you on, I think, the Joe Rogan before that, and you just went in there and put on an amazing performance. Was there any doubts when you seen him sent over him into another stratosphere, or did you already know that you're just going to go in there?
First takedown, I'm like, yep, we're good.
Nice.
Yeah, the start of the fight looked amazing because you just, the way you were kind of evading him, it really exposed a weakness in there, and I think that's really cool to see. It's the Derek Lewis's and Ngannou's, and It was just awesome to see because it was just a clinical win. And those fights, though, like, do you think that having a fight like that kind of makes you compare, like, well, I fought that guy, you fought Overeem, like all these like big, strong dudes that have insane knockout power. Does one of those fights prepare you for the next, or is everyone their own kind of challenge as well?
Well, I think a little bit of both. I think you definitely, build your confidence up and get you to the next one. But I think, like every fight is definitely different because you got, not every guy's the same. Like, I fought, Francis, who's like 6'4", 6'5", as tall as me. And I fought DC, I think he was like 6 foot or 5'11" or something. You know what I mean? Like different size, different length. So he and different, like he's a wrestler. And, I mean, he's a good striker too. But like with Francis, he throws bombs and. It's just, man, it's a never ending like cycle. Cause like one fight might be one thing and the next fight's totally different. So, sometimes you get lucky and you get two of the same back to back. But most of the time it doesn't.
Would that fight be the most satisfying of your career because of all of the media hype around it, which was pretty much for Francis aside, or was there any other fight that stands out? Obviously you've had so many big ones.
Honestly, I think every time my hand raises, I'm happy. But I think the last one especially really, really, I love that one the most, just because like when my daughter gets old, I can tell her like, listen, hey, I got beat up, and then I didn't want to, I couldn't go down like that, and I wanted my belt back, and so I dug down deep, I trained hard, and I got back what was mine, and I want to show that harder you work, the more you train, good things happen. I just keep working no matter what it is.
Yeah.
Is there any? Go ahead, sorry.
No, just no. I was just gonna ask about the mental preparation for a fight like that. Like, if in terms of approaching the fight, and that you've lost the last one, and there's so much at stake. Like, whatever consequences it could have for your career, for your personal investment in the sport. If you have that second one, do you also focus a lot on the mental preparation in a rematch? More so than in other fights.
I think that's a good question, actually. I mean, definitely on the mental part of it. There's no question. I honestly, I just didn't care. Like, I think about that a lot too. Like, of course, winning helps out a lot, especially with your brand and stuff, because it makes it bigger. I don't really worry about that, because like I'm just gonna go and do what I do. I really worry. This fight, definitely. I thought about it a lot. There's no question. And thank God for my daughter, because I probably would have drove my wife crazy every second of the day if we didn't have my daughter. I would have stopped thinking about it, which I didn't stop thinking about, but I had my daughter to worry about, which is like the best thing ever, which, I'm never going to change. Like, I'm going to tell her how much she helped me for that fight. I definitely got the mental aspect. Like I said, I think you learn a lot from a loss too. I learned that, I was a better fighter. It didn't look like it at the beginning of the fight. The last fight, at the beginning of the fight, it didn't look that good. I knew in the end, when I caught that fourth round, I just knew it. I was like, yeah, we're good. I'm like, I'm golden. Like, I felt great. And even my coach, he's like, man, you walked up. He's like, man, I was like, we got this. I know it. He's like, you knew it. You saw me. Even my wife said it too. Like, those two, those are my like keys. And they're both are like, when you walked out, like I knew it. Like, we both were like, yeah, we're good.
It's when you face adversity like that, I think that's really cool. Like, especially being the champion, that's a point up for discussion a lot. Has he faced adversity? I mean, you had adversity in your round against Overeem in the first round, and then now with DC as well with the loss, and then the first round, and then you come back like that. I think it's really, that must be a really good feeling, because you see sometimes with the beep, a lot of people say, well, let's see what happens when he bleeds, that sort of thing. You get that a lot, but you've been in all the deep murky waters and came out top.
Yeah, thank God, right? Right, I just I'm blessed and happy with everything. I've been lucky. I had great people on my side with me, and it's been a great journey. We're not done yet. Just having some fun here, and I get the unfortunately not right now, just because we're all sitting in our house doing nothing and spring cleaning already and doing all this crazy stuff. But once it gets nice, at least when this is over with in the next month or so. It'll be nice outside. I can use my pool. And
yeah.
You mentioned that the journey is not over for you yet, and I do hope that we're going to get to see you fight a number of times yet. But is there any dream fight towards the end of the career to wrap it up? Not yet, but obviously I assume Daniel's a given at some point. The trilogy has to happen. But after that, just one last fight, the biggest one at the end, and just walk off with the belt, all the glory, all the memories.
No, I don't really have a dream fight. I just don't like, I'll fight whoever, I mean, what I signed up for, honestly. Of course, I love to fight Fury for a boxing match. That'd be fun. I think it'd be a lot of fun. But MMA wise, whatever, man. I'm down for whatever. I'm here to fight, man. I love what I do.
Yeah. Also, I was gonna ask, who do you think, other than yourself, who do you think is the number one pound for pound fighter? Like people love hearing shit about. I think I want to hear what the pros say. I want to hear what the fighters themselves say. Like, who in your mind is the number one pound for pound apart from yourself?
Yeah, maybe Amanda.
That's a great shout. She is a
Yeah.
beast.
She is. I wouldn't want to fight her. I'm the guy. Her and her partner, they're amazing people. They're awesome. Every time I see them, like, how's the baby? Like, it's crazy how nice she is. You know what I mean? And she's such just an animal in the octagon, and but they're awesome. But I watch her and she gets better at fight, no matter what the fight is. She just always finds a way. Sometimes it doesn't go her way, and everything usually it goes her way. But I'm saying sometimes
Mhm.
like, oh my God, there's a show. And then she gets out of it and then she smashes them. Khabib's also. I mean, you look at him. That guy's been rolls through everyone so far. So, but it's gonna be an interesting fight between him and Tony. But we all say that, and then the fight can end in 30 seconds. So, but it's styles make matchups. That's why I like to make martial arts, man, because you never know what's gonna happen. It's as real as it gets.
100%. You've mentioned your daughter a few times, and I just wonder, when she grows up and she's of age, how on earth is she going to bring any guy back to the house? And are you going to play bad cop?
No, she's not dating until she's 35, so it's all good. She's a little beast, man. She's of course she's a big girl. Not saying she's like tall and
Yeah.
she's strong, and she's super smart, as every parent should say about their child. But she's awesome. She's very aggressive already. She loves rough housing, which scares the crap out of me already, because I want her to be like tough. Like, I want her to be tough. I don't want her to like beat people up. But when she gets of age here, and she might go a little bit earlier because her godfather does own the gym, so a little leeway to get her in. But I want her to start doing jiu-jitsu, start grappling right away, because not just in general, just for self-defense. God forbid she's out somewhere I'm not there, or she's on a date. Who knows? Just she has that, she can choke a guy with the shirt, or maybe someone's doing something that she can handle herself. So that's the main thing. But she's never gonna fight though. Nope.
No.
Never.
Which is cool. I think that's one of the awesome things about fighting, because like a lot of times, people that don't know much about fighting, they might relate fighting to aggression, but a lot of times it's, competitiveness. It's also teaches you self-defense. It teaches people that actually want to fight a lot outside of the sports to not do it anymore.
No, you're 100% right. Honestly, I mean, I'm very competitive. It doesn't matter what it is. I'm very competitive. We could be tying a shoe. I'm gonna try to beat you tying my shoe. I don't really care. But but one thing about it too is that when I get done with training, like, I can be in the worst mood before training. When I leave, I'm in the best mood ever. All my aggression, all my frustrations are out. It's like clear-minded. I feel it's like a yoga session or like meditation session. Like, I come out, even though it might have been not my day, I still feel way better.
Do you, when you have training sessions, do you, for each fighter, try to look for somebody same height, kind of same strong assets? How do you pick your sparring partners?
Well, yeah, usually there's no question. Well, I have my set guys. I have Jeff Hughes and Alexa. They're both in UFC light heavyweight and heavyweight. I train those guys on a constant basis. They're amazing guys, great training partners. And then once we have a fight announced or whoever it is, I'll bring them in. And like you said, the best way we can match them up, and height wise, striking wise, and usually, and the guys I've met with, it's pretty much the same guys. I've set a couple of guys that I work with all the time that come in because it's just how it works out. They're awesome at mimicking too, and they're great guys. There's no like dickheads. They're all just good dudes, and like, hey, they'll come in. I'll pick them up from the airport. Like, hey, you haven't watched the film. This is what we're gonna do. I'm like, Jesus, guy, all right. And it's like, we're not sparring until tomorrow. So, but I've been pretty lucky with some great training partners.
You mentioned how the gym is somewhat of an escape, even if you're in a bad mood. When you come out, that you feel clear-headed, the aggression is gone. So do you think even when you take a step back from the UFC and your career is over as a professional fighter, that you'll continue to be in the gym in some capacity?
Yeah, definitely. I think I definitely want to start coaching, probably help my coach out, because he's getting older too. And I know he's getting tired. He wants to spend more time with his family. And he's put so much time and effort into that gym. He's done wondrous things. I mean, legit, like, first place he had was like this. I can't tell you how small it was. It was crazy. It was just shoot for anybody. Also transitions to mixed martial arts and all that good stuff. And then now it's a player. Now we have, no, I feel like it's my gym. He actually we moved 10, 11 years ago, maybe 12, 13 years ago. I remember it was a long time, but yeah, now it's gone into a massive MMA and fitness gym. So it's really over 20 to 30, I think it's 20,000 or 30,000 square feet. Got an MMA side. We got 2 box rings, 2 cages, a huge thing of mats. We have all like weightlifting on one side, powerlifting in the back. He made it into like an amazing gym, and it's awesome. And it's crazy because how packed it is, and it's such a family environment. Like everyone that has like an attitude or an ego, they usually find their way out. So it's kind of nice. And everyone has each other's back. It's just it's crazy how many people are there and how many people we all just talk and just good people. I love it. Like I could have been 0-90, I would never left.
Yeah, it's tough to hear sometimes when with I think it's American Top Team, right, where the coach just said like we're just gonna kind of cut down on the trash talking between fighters. It's bad for the atmosphere in the gym, especially with the Colby and Masvidal stuff happening. Like,
Yeah.
do you ever have that in the gym where there's bad blood and that stuff needs to get sorted because this seems to got a little bit out of control.
Yeah, my coach usually talks to him, but if something comes up, honestly, they usually like hash it out with sparring. Joking, but we haven't really had too much like drama. We have drama here and there, just like anywhere you go, it doesn't matter where it's at. But it's been pretty good, and but he doesn't want to put up with it either. So if you're gonna be that guy, he's gonna tell you to leave. He don't care. He doesn't need your money. He's like, I don't need your money. I'm good. It's like you can leave. So and the cool thing about our gym too is a lot of our guys are homegrown. A lot of guys are based here. We used to train them from bottom up, pretty much like 90% of the fighters. It's crazy. And usually if there's a problem, and he'll like sit us all down. He'll scream at all of us. I'm always included too. But I pay the dues, so I kind of joke with him the whole time. So I mean,
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's cool though because like especially like you said, if guys are homegrown, you go through a gym process and you're there and you respect the dojo and you've been humble too. You've been put on your ass a lot by people that were there, and
terrible.
and I think that's what's cool about fighting. Like sometimes you see somebody that is a professional fighter, has all these professional matches, and somebody completely new come in and it'll be so chill during sparring, and it's like keep your hands up, watch your head. It's not like to prove who's the toughest motherfucker there.
No, like when we spar, like I know that some people don't spar 100%. Like we go, we also watch. If something happens, we back off or we stop it. But like it's a fight, so you got to train for it. And so, but we don't want to try to take each other. Like we try to hurt each other to an extent. And I think that's what we have so much good. I would say what I'm looking for. Mutual respect for each other. There we go. That's what I was looking for.
Do you think?
Yeah.
Do you think
we're just here together, and like we do a lot of things together too. We have team dinners together. We go and some guys go out, we go out there, and they try to get me to go out, but I'm like, hey guy, you're 22, I'm 37, you can't hang. It's cool. Hang with big boys yet. No, but it's great, and these kids are great. I mean, it's just they're just they're learning. They're lucky because they didn't have. I had it way worse than they did. Like the things we used to do was like. It was terrible. And
So what's the worst thing you've done, like when you're in training or whatever? What's the dumbest thing you've done leading up to a fight?
Dumbest thing I ever fought. I remember my coach. So I was wrestling with a guy. It's terrible. It's not terrible, but like it could have been way worse than it was. It was right before my first UFC fight, probably 5 weeks out, 6 weeks out. I was wrestling with one guy. He's no joke, 340 pounds, but he was like a freak of nature, like athlete, He actually played. He wrestled in high school. He wrestled in college. He's an All-American animal, right? Like I'm usually the strongest guy. I feel like a little baby. Like he would whip me around. My goal was every time wrestling was like not to get taken down and to get one takedown and so whatever. So literally the last day he was gonna start the last round with like 10 seconds left. I went for a shot. I slipped. We were sweating. All 340 pounds fell on top of me. And I popped my ribs out. This became I'm like, I'm trying to breathe. My coach is all right. I'm like, I'm fine. He's like, okay, get up. He's like, all right, we're done. He's like, all right, go do like pad work for like 20 minutes. So I went pad work for 20 minutes. Like, just like, I've done worse, but like, I remember one time the lights were shut off. Something happened, like a transformer down the road, like blew out, so like power in the area was like cut out. And so we were supposed to spar that day. So I had no idea until I rolled up. And I'm looking, I'm like, why is there like cones in the shape of like a circle? I see all the headgears outside. I'm like, no. So he made me, so I sparred, we boxed outside in the parking lot. And I had to do 10 3-minute rounds. That was just how we ended up doing it. It was like 10. And each round, our ability had to like run around. It was like a quarter of a mile. Run around. That was my break, was in between each round. I was running around that.
Wow.
I thought I was going to die that day. But I mean, I've done 1,000 squat jumps. That was not fun. Couldn't feel my nice spot the next day, which I couldn't walk. I mean, it's got a lot easier, and yeah. But he still pushes the pace on us. Though. He doesn't like take it easy, but like some of the caveman training's gone, which is good. Comes back once in a while, but not too much.
Do you think you have to be sparring almost to 100% to be ready to go in there and fight? Or do you think it is possible? Because you hear more and more people talk about really doing less sparring, not as much contact so that they can reserve the body. But do you think to be in that mode, you just need to be going through the fights and training too?
Well, so I spar like 2 to 3 times a week, Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. It's either stand up like MMA again, kickboxing, or it's like ground and pound. We put like the bar headgears and we go at it. We don't kill each other, but it's a great workout. But so when I was fighting Mark Hunt in Australia, I left a week early just to get adjusted to time. So I was gone for 2 weeks with no sparring. Usually we spar the week of, and the week, the week of the fight. And so I didn't. So I just trained, and like I never felt better in my entire life. I felt so refreshed. My coach was like, man, I think we have something here. So ever since then, I stopped training 2 weeks before a fight. I started sparring 2 weeks before the fight. And ever since then, I feel great. I do still hard training. I do things called chaos, and I do light sparring, tapping and stuff, and working. But yeah, that I think you really do. I mean, I feel like it's like a fight. You have to train like a fight.
It's very interesting. Well, we know you're a busy man, so we're gonna let you go. But it's really amazing that you were able and willing to come on the podcast together. It's been a huge honor, honestly, and
incredible.
Yeah, whatever happens, good luck leading up to your next fight. I personally hope that it's going to be the trilogy against Cormier, and best of luck in that one. I will be rooting for you.
Oh, hey, I appreciate you guys. Thanks. I hope you can understand me. I'm terrible at talking, but
no worries, mate. It was great.
Thanks for having me on, guys. It means a lot.
All right.
Thank you so much, Stipe.
Yeah. Bye.
Thanks.
All right. So, guys, the man that needs no introduction. We have Daniel Cormier, former light heavyweight and heavyweight champion in the UFC. Now, I read something very interesting, is that you've been champion for every promotion and organization that you fought for.
Yeah, I've been very lucky over the course of my career. Got some big victories and fought some great guys, and lucky enough to win the vast majority of them.
Yeah, so obviously, we're on Twitch now. Me and Fintan both, my co-host here, we're both poker players. One thing that we would really like to know, do you have any experience playing poker?
I used to play all the time whenever we were getting ready for the Olympics back in 2004, 2008. The whole Olympic team would sit around the hotels or wherever we were trying to play poker. So you could imagine a whole bunch of wrestlers trying to play the game, hide their hands, and not tipping off your opponents. I mean, I'm bluffing the vast majority of the time. I barely ever made it out of the first group. I played in a poker tournament once and went all in very early and was one of the first players put out.
Oh, yeah. So are you, because within fighting, especially with your interviews and post-fight reactions and just the way you're kind of experiencing the moment, you always seem to really wear your heart on your sleeve, right? Like you're really going through it emotionally and stuff. Is that the way you played poker too? Like the goods are good and the bads are really
That's
bad?
the problem. I think that's why I lose all the damn time. I feel I got a hand. If I got a hand, I got a hand, and I'm gonna play my hand against your hand. Sometimes your hand just ain't gonna be good enough. Yeah, but the vast majority of the time, yeah, man, I got a hand. I'm gonna play it, and it hasn't always worked out for me. But I've won some too. Let's not go crazy and think I haven't won any, but I've won some too.
You definitely do seem like someone who wears all their emotions on their sleeve. And I feel like in recent years, you've become somewhat more of a showman. I think you've been aware of your position, and I've loved how you've been playing up to the crowds. Obviously, you've been doing the commentary as well. But with that, do you think you will move in to the WWE? Because I've heard you talking about it a few times. I know you love it. And do you see that in your future at some point?
Well, I mean, not in the. I don't think in a actual physical capacity, I would do it. It's a very taxing thing, and honestly, to learn to do it at a level that I would want to try and entertain, it may be too much at this point in my life and career. But yeah, I think I could do something with those guys. I mean, every some opportunities, and I can't wait for the day that I'm able to actually pursue them.
Yeah, I mean, you had a really good setup for it. After you beat Stipe when Brock Lesnar came into the ring. Do you think that like what I honestly thought when I saw that I wasn't sure if that was to set up like a wrestling match or maybe to have like an all-out heavyweight title match.
It was gonna be a title match, but it was nuts because, like you said, I love the WWE, and I'm in there with the biggest star in the WWE, the biggest draw in WWE history. And I mean, we're going at it. I cut a promo on him. He cut a promo on me. It wasn't. I mean, it was the most perfect thing in the world, but it's not scripted, right? So
Yeah,
it
yeah,
doesn't
yeah, yeah,
always
yeah.
go according to plan. If this was in the WWE, we would have wrestled, right? And Brock would have won. Obviously, Brock would have won, but we would have wrestled. But in the UFC, there are just so many factors, and the fight didn't come to fruition.
Yeah, so like also like through that showmanship, do you think it's something that's obviously we saw kind of McGregor also going through that. His fight against Habib, it may have been a little bit where it got out of hand with the promotional stuff around it and the trash talking, and now we see it with America's Top Team as well, where you have Masvidal and Colby, and there's some trouble in the gym and stuff. Do you think that showboating and trash talking and on the promotional side of things is going to get bigger in the UFC, or do you think that it'll kind of calibrate itself? Or
I think in fight sports, it's always a part of it, right? Because in a fight, people want to believe in bad blood. For as much as everyone wants to call fighting a sport and it's competition, ultimately it's bad blood. And guys don't like each other, and when guys don't like each other and it's genuine, it brings more people to the table. So guys are going to build fights, and I thought Conor was a genius at building fights, but then at a point, it can become too personal. And that happened with him and Habib's fight, and that's why you saw what happened after the fight with the spillover into the crowd and everything, because it became such a real rivalry, a real dislike for your opponent.
yeah, it's like a bomb that exploded pretty much to where it's like, okay,
Yeah.
maybe I stepped over some boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was really cool to see Connor kind of pull it back though against Cowboy, where it's just kind of like, okay, know me, respect my opponent, especially Cowboy Cerrone. Like he's never said any bad word about anybody, really.
I just think that Conor had to be aware of everything going back into that fight, because Conor had the issue where he got into the fight with the guy at the bar. He had the issue with Habib in the bus. There were just a lot of negative headlines surrounding him. And I think in terms of everything he does, he's very aware. And I think he was aware that in that situation, if he came back as the same person he was when he left, people might have been turned off by it. So I think he pivoted. And I think it was good to see that. I just want to see if he's able to maintain that when he's fighting a person that he does not have the most respect for. Or honestly, someone that I think going into that fight, you also knew that he was going to steamroll Cowboy, right? Like it was just the matchup wasn't great for Cowboy. And I want to see how he feels when he's challenged again, if he can maintain that level of professionalism and friendliness that he showed in that fight.
So what do you think would be a good challenge for him now? Like, okay, so he had the comeback fight, a good stylistic matchup for him.
Yes.
What do you think could be a good next step for him?
I mean, for me personally with McGregor, I think you have to look at what's changed, right? Because before you rush him back in there with Habib, I want to know what's changed, right? A guy can say all the right things. I've done this to improve where I was lacking or where he exploited me. But show me where he's changed. And I think we need to see that Conor has improved in the wrestling transitions if he's going to be able to fight Khabib. And I think the only way to do that is put him in there with another wrestler. I think going into the fight with Khabib, you thought he would struggle because all you have to do is go back to the Chad Mendez fight and see that Chad Mendez was able to take him down until he was tired. But since that, you haven't seen Conor now with a wrestler that's going to try to take him down. I think Justin Gaethje is the guy because although Justin does not use his wrestling, I believe in a fight with Conor, after seeing what Khabib was able to do, you would see Justin employ that strategy a little more than he normally would. So, and then if he got past Justin, you go, okay, you know, we know he's got the stand up and now he can defend takedowns. Now you start to become more interested in the rematch, not based on just the bad blood, but the actual competition. And I think that is where you start to draw people in.
That's an excellent
100%.
point. Yeah. I think, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to, if you've anything there, I was going to move it on because you were speaking about rivalries. And obviously you've gone through one where there was a lot of bad blood. And I would say you've gone through one where there was a lot of respect, but a desire to be the best. So was it nice for you fighting Stipe where it was all about the competition and there was no bad blood there? Or do you enjoy that level where it brings out the anger and want to win in you?
You know, I think you find joy in kind of both, right? Like, whereas with Stipe the first time, it was really nothing. And I mean, I could tell that I agitated him on The Ultimate Fighter. And I think I just agitate him just overall. But it's not to the point that I kind of feel like I can't stand Stipe Miocic. But in the Jones rivalry, it was just pure bad blood to where you can't even sleep at night because you just have this mass disdain for someone. It's very difficult to compete with a clear mind under those circumstances because it is more than just winning a competition. It's more, it's personal. And so but you can get a lot out of both. I think in the Jones fights, I was more prepared than I've ever been in my life. So I feel like he's beaten the absolute best version of me. And in the Miocic fight, the first time I was able to prepare because the challenge was so big. Last time I was beat up real bad. I had a lot of injuries and he fought a fantastic fight. So I'm excited to see what happens in the third one.
What's the schedule looking like for you now? Like, you know, obviously there's a lot of impact with the coronavirus around the world, and are you able to prepare still? Do you have it kind of on the low, or what's going on with you with training? And
can't really do much at all, man. Honestly, you know, right now it's sit at home and be a dad and a husband because there's really not much you can do. I mean, I got a treadmill, I have a bike. You can do those types of things, but it's very difficult to prepare yourself for a championship fight when you can't go into the gym with your training partners and get the sparring and work that you're used to. So, you know, right now I'm doing the things to prepare myself to get ready. And I bought a hyperbaric chamber. Me and Bob Cook are installing it today.
Oh, sick.
Building a sauna in my backyard to where I can do all my recovery stuff when I'm getting beat down. Because I'm going to put every resource and everything I have into this next one. Because this next one is the most important one I've ever had.
Yeah. It seems like you're always in these career-defining trilogy situations with rivalries and crazy shit. And then, you know, I mean, this one is really fun to follow though, because, you know, a lot of the things that I think made the Jones rivalry and the trilogy fight, a lot of talk around there, also from a viewer and fan perspective, felt toxic. You know, it's not easy to watch at certain times where I feel like everyone I talk to when me and Fintan are talking about the Miocic trilogy 100%. With you guys, we're just like, this is fucking crazy. Like, this is going to be insane. We can't wait. You know, it's just from a fan perspective, it feels like everything is inside the sport and happening as it should.
Yeah, and also the fact that we had a great second fight. The second fight was insane.
Sick.
You know, I mean, it was a great build to a fight. You know, we told a good story. I started off fast. I beat him up early. He was able to make adjustments and win the fight. It was a good, we told a good story. We had a great fight. And I believe that the third fight will only be better. And when you watch that, when you have those types of circumstances going into a fight, people get excited for it. They can appreciate it.
Yeah. No,
Do
for
you
sure.
think in the second fight, obviously the first fight was spectacular on your end, couldn't have gone any better. And in the second fight, you were well in control. Do you think the fact that you knocked him out in the first fight made you want to finish with the knockout again? And
That
you were
was the
kind of chasing it slightly?
Yeah, you can see I was loading up on everything, trying to knock him out with every strike. If I would have just fought like I did in the first round, it would have been an easy night for me. You know, like I was able to take him down. I was able to outstrike him. I was punching. I was kicking. I was faster than him. I was really just outpacing him through the first round and the second round. Third round got much closer, and then the fourth round he actually got the finish. But that was even a close round. I was outlanding him, but he was landing those nice body shots over and over. So it was just front doorbell just got pushed. I swear that might be the food. Yeah, you know, you can't go get food anymore. You gotta just gotta like order it. But it was a good fight.
Yeah,
it was a good fight.
Like as a takeaway, like from that fight, because it's hard. Because like you said, like you know, I was very confident. I wanted to go for the knockout. I wanted to finish the fight the same. It almost seemed as, especially in the first few rounds, you were almost. It seemed like you were willing to take a punch, to dish out a punch, because you were so confident in your knockout power there.
And also knowing that I could take a shot. You know, like I was like, he's hitting me with his best shots, but they're not hurting me. I'm able to walk him down. I'm able to hit him, and you know, I fell in love with that, trying to go chase that moment. I mean, that is the biggest moment of my life, when I knocked him down and hit him with those follow-up shots to win the heavyweight title. And it's almost like you want to replicate that, and you lose track of what you need to do. You need to just win. You don't need to be more impressive in the second time, because you can't. I could not have topped that. I could not have topped what happened in Vegas on that night. And I went chasing that, and that cost me dearly. And now I have to go try to figure out how to go beat this dude again, when now he's got confidence in knowing that he can win the fight against me.
It's pretty level if you think about it. Like it's such a sick matchup that way, because you know you have that knockout victory, and then he won the second one. It's very hard to say like who outboxed each other in the second one, because you were landing so many shots. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, we landed a lot of strikes on each other. I mean, I think outside of Joanna, that just happened to Willie, nobody's landed more strikes in losing a title fight in UFC history than what I landed on Stipe that night. Stipe was in shape. He was ready to go. He was determined. Dude was ready to win that belt, and he got the job done.
It's crazy, especially in a heavyweight fight. Like you don't, you know, there's not that much volume.
They don't take that many. They don't take that many without falling down.
Yeah. What are you gonna ask?
Sorry, I was just going to ask, was the first victory over Stipe, was that the most special night that you had in the octagon out of them all? Because obviously you've had so many sick fights over the years, but that seems to enjoy that one a lot.
That was the best one, because to get both belts and to really, you know, when you look at a career, in the career that I've had, in the victories that I've had, you start to enter the conversation of being one of the greatest martial artists of all time. And it's almost like when Joe Burrow, I don't know if you guys follow football, but Joe Burrow was the leader for the Heisman Trophy. But he needed that Heisman moment, that one moment where he did something astounding that just blew everybody's mind. That would, when they showed the highlights, they would show that highlight, and it was like, that dude's a Heisman Trophy winner. For all the victories, right? All the finishes, the wins, the Rumbles, the Gustafsons, all these dudes I had beaten, Barnett's and Bigfoots and Munson and Anderson. I'd beaten all these guys. I just never had that moment that was going to stand the test of time, that when it was all said and done, you pull up a clip and go, that's one of the greatest fighters of all time. And now I have that, right? Because that image of me on top of the octagon with 2 belts, that'll never go anywhere. Yeah. You know, so I needed that moment to really etch myself in the history of the sport, and I think that night did it.
Do you think, like, sorry, hearing you talk about it like that, do you think that if you were to beat Miocic next time round, do you think it will be very hard for you to kind of get that feeling back after that? Because there's so much build up to this fight. That'll be like kind of the conclusive one, right? Is there a chance we might lose you after that, or like the way
yes,
you're, you know?
Yes.
Don't say that to us, Daniel.
Probably be done. After this fight, this will be my last fight, and I need to go win. And I want that fairy tale ending to end as the champion, and just be a part of the sport for the rest of my life. Go and represent the UFC as a guy that walked away on top. And it's I'd be 2-time light heavyweight champ, 2-time heavyweight champion, multiple title defenses, one of the greatest of all time, and be completely happy with it.
Let's just say you were going to fight one more time after that, and there was a dream matchup that you could have. Would it be Brock? Would that be the one?
Brock or Jones again. If I was to ever fight again, Brock or Jones again. I don't know at all. I'm so focused on this one that I can't really think about anything else.
We asked we just obviously had Stipe Miocic on as well. We asked him the same question. Seeing you guys fought each other once and the score is tied, like, do you have a different mental preparation going to this third fight? Do you spend more time on like mental preparation and kind of, not really attitude, because obviously you guys are both in fantastic shape in that regard, but like, do you have a different prep because you have different things to overcome? Are there doubts you have to deal with, that sort of thing?
I think the uncertainty is again going to be very good to motivate me. The uncertainty because he won one. Before it was like I beat him the first time, and now it's that uncertainty, that uncomfortable feeling of knowing that if things don't go right, this dude can beat you, and that's scary. And being afraid is good for me. A little fear, a little bit of anxiety will be good for me, because I didn't have that in the last fight. I know, and it wasn't necessarily just because I knocked him out the first time. It was because in that first round, when we were fighting, before I knocked him out, I felt like I was starting to get the better of him, and I was going to start to pull away. The second fight, I saw what can happen if I get the better of him. He can still adjust and come back.
Yeah.
And so that anxiety of knowing that is motivating. It's scary. It's frightening. It makes me want to do more and work better and harder.
That's interesting. You're on the treadmill and you're coughing your lungs out, and then you think about that moment, and that makes you put in that extra 2 minutes.
Hey, you don't want to do it. You get tired? Okay. Well, you were tired in there that time, and you got finished. So figure this shit out.
Is there anything in terms of mental preparation that you do outside of just training harder and the physical side? Do you do anything on that side of the game, or have you just been in the game for so long?
For a long time, I was seeing a sports psychologist. Now I don't see her anymore, but I used a lot of the exercises that I used and learned in those sessions to try to prepare me. I am a creature of habit, so I'm going to do a lot of the things the same, but there are going to be things that I'm going to change, and hopefully I can be better at.
Do you, because you have so much experience, and the way you talk about it, it sounds really balanced, right? It sounds honest, it sounds balanced, also from a reflection perspective. Are there any fighters that you really have under your wing that you're kind of giving guidance? Because I could see a lot of people kind of flock to you, in that regard. Is there a special relationship you have with certain people there? Or?
I mean, we have guys that I try to mentor as the captain of the team, obviously from the top, and Habib and Rockhold and those guys, Velasquez, to guys that are getting started, Deron Wynn and Kyle Crutchmer and Sean Bunch and a number of other guys in the gym. You try to be the leader of in whatever sense that you can be. And but you don't go pursue that. Let those guys choose you to play that role for them. It can't be forced. People have to want to follow the path that you have paved, even though you did not necessarily pave the path. I only followed. I followed what Josh Koscheck and John Fitch and Josh Thompson and Mike Swick and those guys did before me, Mike Kyle and Bobby Southworth. I just followed what they did. And I think that's like the best thing you can do as an athlete is take the lessons you learn and then leave it behind you. I tell my wrestlers at Gilroy, I said, leave it better than you found it, right? Leave it better than you found it. Leave the program. Don't just take from it, make it better. And I tell this to my guys all the time, my seniors. And I think that's what I've done. When I found AKA, it was a great gym, and we had good fighters. Cain Velasquez was on his way up, and Thompson and those guys, Koscheck, those guys fought for belts, right? But they didn't win. Kane and I will leave AKA better than we found it, because now guys know you can actually be the UFC champion. Before we knew it was possible to get to a title fight, we had saw Fitch fight George, we saw Kos fight George, but they hadn't got over the hump. Now we've all gotten over the hump and leave the idea that you can be a champion in this program, through this program, training in the way that the coaches at AKA tell you to train.
That's very
You
inspiring.
obviously, it is extremely inspiring, but you obviously have a lot of love for the people in your team. So I'm going to ask you a question, but not including those on your team. Who would you say right now in the game, not including yourself and your team, are the pound per pound best fighters out there? Say 2 or 3.
Okay, I would say Kamaru Usman. I thought my eyes were open with Usman after watching him fight Covington in just a stand-up fight. That was one of the things that I thought about Usman was what happens when he's uncomfortable and he can't go get a takedown. Well, he showed it. Not only is he very skilled, he's unbelievably tough. So Kamaru Usman, Henry Cejudo, Triple C, bend the knee. Triple C, bend the knee. It's the man, Cringe King. He's unreal. You know, the guy steamrolled TJ Dillashaw and pretty much just beat up on Marlon Moraes after getting beat badly in the first round. You can see it in his head where he just goes, you know what, this ain't happening to me, and he just beat the shit out of Marlon Moraes. That's insane. So Triple C, and you know, honestly, man, Israel Adesanya is showing. Obviously, John Jones and Stipe Miocic and Zhang Wei Li, they're all like unbelievably. Amanda Nunes, all of them unbelievably talented. But when I look at Israel Adesanya, I know the last fight wasn't what everybody thought it would be, but look at his skill set. Look at what he did to Rob. Look at what he did to Robert Whittaker and Kelvin Gastelum. And even look at the fight with Romero. When Romero took him down, how quickly he got back to his feet, which discouraged from Yoel to keep wrestling. So, I mean, when you look at his skill set, and we talk about pound for pound, you're looking at a guy that can transition from middleweight to light heavyweight to potentially even heavyweight. And I do know what the definition of pound for pound is. And I think those guys, Cejudo, because he's a two-weight champion, Izzy, because I believe he has the ability to be as good at 205 as he is at 85. And Kamaru Usman could be a good middleweight if he decided that would be his path.
Do you think that Izzy could beat John Jones?
It will be tough, but I do believe that he has the style to beat Jones. I mean, we've seen now in the last few fights, these long guys have been giving Jones a lot of problems. And those guys are not strikers at the level of Izzy. And in watching Izzy get up from that takedown tells me that he would cause some issues for Jones in the sense that Jones couldn't just go take him down. Yeah, he could beat him. He could win the fight.
Sick.
You mentioned Habib a couple times. Obviously, you're really close with Habib. You know, we want to know because we've been waiting for this for fucking years. Like, we want to know what's happening with Habib Ferguson. Give us the latest. What's like? Is this just a dream shattered?
I have no idea. This is like one that's just gonna. It's like the girl, man. It's like the girl that when you chase her, she doesn't like you. But then the moment you stop caring, she comes back around, and the moment you go, okay, you back around. I want you again. She goes, you know what? I don't want you anymore. That's this fight. You know, when the fight goes away, nobody worries about it. But the moment it comes back, we all pay attention. And when we pay attention, it just kind of goes away. I have no idea what's happening with this fight. It hurts. It hurts to even think about it.
I know Khabib is your boy, but do you think Ferguson is potentially the worst stylistic fight he could have in that division?
Oh, absolutely. Tony Ferguson is dangerous, man. He's the hardest fight for Habib. But even that being said, you know, what's the hardest fight for a guy that's not going to lose? You know what I'm saying? Like, it can be the hardest fight, but he ain't going to lose. Like, you know, I think, you know, he's the most difficult style matchup and all that other stuff, but he won't lose. He's going to beat Tony Ferguson. And he'll beat whoever else he fights.
Do you
He's that
think
good.
do you think that Habib cares about bleeding? Because a lot of people said like, no, Tony's gonna make him bleed, but Habib seems like he just drink it and keep fighting or something.
He
Like,
don't care. Habib doesn't care about bleeding. Like you watch Habib fight, a lot of days he'll leave AKA with more black eyes and bruises than he does in his fight. Smashing these dudes. Go back to the Dustin Poirier fight or Ally Quentin. Watch some of his interviews. He's got a massive shiner under his eye from training, but then he leaves the fight and he's just fine. So he doesn't care about bleeding, man. The kid, dude's as tough as anybody. Think about this, man. Habib fought in organizations where he could get on top and headbutt people. Who wants to headbutt anybody? Like,
yeah.
it'd be crazy to do that.
Yeah, I know you're very busy, so we're gonna let you go very soon. Obviously with the recent stuff, I still really wanted to ask I saw you on the podcast you guys do together with Ariel Hawani yesterday. You guys discussed it a lot. Like, what's the feeling you have now with the whole Jones situation after his arrest? Like, how do you see his future play out? Like, what impact does this have?
I think the impact will come from the court system. Because I believe that if John Jones is going to be better, he'll have to have some sort of severe punishment. It can't just be time. Losing time has not shown to bother him all that much, right? Because he's lost by 3 years of his career to suspensions. But I believe somebody has to take a hard stance with him and let him know that this behavior is unacceptable. And I think that will come from the court systems, maybe, where they say, we told you years ago, we better not see you again. And we see you again today. So we have to do something about it. Or it just, a lot of times when you have a good kid, say I have a good wrestler on my team, I don't want to kick him off.
Yeah.
But you run the risk of becoming a joke when you allow that wrestler to continue with bad behavior and have no punishment. So I think somebody is going to either do something or look like a fool, whether it's the UFC or the state of New Mexico or the city of Albuquerque. Somebody's going to have to take a stand, and not because they want to save face, but in order to try to help this dude not self-destruct to a level that you can't come back from.
I kind of feel like it's like the spectrum that we go through. You start and you look and it's kind of annoying. At first you're surprised with all the with all the outrage and the stuff he does outside the ring, and then you get annoyed at it. And now at a certain point, it just becomes a little bit sad.
Nobody cares.
Yeah, but it's sad as well. Like
sad.
you're just watching.
Nobody cares. Like some people don't care, but then you start feeling bad for them. Where it's like it's not even like. You find no joy in it, it's just like first couple times you're like, oh, this idiot, like how stupid you got to be, and then it's kind of like, man, this dude can't get out his own way. It's kind of messed up. It's really messed up.
Yeah. Ending it on a little bit more of a positive note. Obviously, you're saying that there'll only be one more fight, but there's absolutely no doubt that you're going to remain an ambassador and part of the UFC. Mm-hmm. Since you've moved onto comms, you've been absolutely incredible. Do you see your future in that side of things, the media, or will you always continue to train and coach people outside as well?
I'll coach. I'm a coach, man. It's what I love to do. I'll coach my high school. I'll coach at AKA. But I'll continue to do my job, within the organization, commentary and hosting TV shows and just doing all these things. But I'll never, no matter what I get, regardless of what platform I'm on, I'll never leave the UFC. I could be doing multiple sports or doing different things, and I would always want to make sure that I'm doing things with the UFC because that's home. And that would be my dream.
That's awesome.
Well, it was a really honor to have you, and thank you so much for coming on our little podcast here. It's going to be a pleasure to watch everything you do in the UFC. We're both big fans, and we wish you the best of luck also, with your next big fight coming up.
Thank you, boys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right.
Too.
Enjoy quarantine. All right, boys.
Bye.
Fuck, that was incredible. We got to talk to Stipe Miocic and Daniel Cormier. I'm going to take a shot. No, I'm joking. Oh, my God. That was so much fun. Crazy. Oh, my days.
I loved it. Me too. Man, it's so sick. Like, we talk about UFC so much. And to just now have somebody on there that is world championship level. to just talk about, like, you get so much more of a look into what's it like, you know.
An
There's so
elite
many
mind.
discussions. Yeah, there's so many discussions about what's gonna happen, and what is this guy thinking, and who's gonna do well. And now you just, like, you see so many things in, like, terms of preparation, involvement in the sport. It's like, you know, it always fucking annoys me when people say, "Oh, it's not a sport, it's a way of life." Like, people can say that about fucking snowboarding when they go twice a year, you know, that sort of thing. But the
Mhm.
way these guys approach that, you see that same mentality and mindset, and you see it how they, you know, approach problems, adversity, all this shit. It's so impressive.
It's so surreal to listen to Daniel talk about his legacy to me whilst he's living it. Like, he feels very aware, or he seems very aware of the fact that he's achieving greatness. I mean, of course, he's got multiple gold belts in the UFC. He will be aware of it, but he really talks about leaving that legacy, and I feel like that's just more important to him than almost anything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool to see that, you know, the way he kind of, yeah, like you said, like, it's like a stepping stone to the next, and to hear that he needed that moment, that's amazing. I love to hear that. That shows, like, the competitiveness, I think, that you need to get to that level. Wow, both so much
100%.
wisdom too from those guys. Just really cool. Like, I'm just going over everything in my head. Mate, I can't believe we fucking interviewed Miocic and Cormier. Like, what the hell is going on? What the fuck?
uh,
Obviously, you might think, like, who the fuck are these dudes? I've never seen these guys. We're both poker players that really absolutely love UFC. I think it's really cool because there are a lot of similarities between UFC and fighting and things like poker. And obviously, you know, you can look at one thing as, like, poker can have an either very rough image or a very nerdy image, but you have to really appreciate the fact what poker players are able to do, how they kind of grind through stakes, how they get up on stuff, and how everything kind of transpires for them. And what people need to get through and they have to do by themselves. And just hearing about how they approach fights, it felt so similar to kind of how to grind and to how to defeat, how to handle defeat, and how to handle a loss and all that shit. So that was really interesting to me. That was really interesting.